This is Green Seas, the podcast by Tradewinds about sustainability and the business of the ocean. I'm Eric Priante Martin, and today we look at one of the biggest challenges for shipping from an insurance perspective: decarbonization. Each year, insurance giant Allianz puts out a report looking at the safety issues facing shipping. And no surprise, the Houthi attacks on vessels in the Red Sea and beyond were at the top of the agenda this time around. But there's another issue that also raises risks that shipping's insurers will have to confront. This is Rahul Khanna, Global Head of Marine Risk Consulting at Allianz Commercial.
One of the biggest issues that I think the shipping industry is facing and is going to have to deal with the next decade or so is the decarbonization of shipping. The whole scenario where IMO has now adopted stringent new targets and pledged net zero by 2050 means that ships have to probably go through years of innovation and change in how they are powered, how they are operated, and the designs of the vessels have to come up with completely new innovative styles. That, I think, is going to change the face of shipping.
Changing the face of shipping. The International Maritime Organization is working on policy mechanisms this year to push shipping towards its net zero target, with interim goals along the way. But Allianz pointed out that there's still uncertainty about how to take the industry to those targets. Doing so will require a combination of alternative fuels and other technologies. And those will require new infrastructure. And there's the potential for safety issues when it comes to how to handle them.
From an insurance industry perspective, we know how many claims we receive from machinery damages, from fuels which are not of the right spec, or from contamination that happens. Now imagine the whole storyboard changing with all different types of fuels, and that creates a huge uncertainty from our perspective on what is going to work and what may not work, and how many damages and claims we are seeing before things settle down.
And there's the need to train up the maritime workforce to work in this new technology scenario.
I think there is a huge amount of investments, collaboration, and innovation, technology-wise as well, which is required for the industry to reach its target, which they have agreed to. And this would mean not just a challenge in terms of capital investment, but is also is a risk to the industry, because we need people who are trained and skilled to operate these new vessels. We are already struggling with shortages of manpower.
Recruiting more seafarers with new skills is not made easier by today's headlines. Who wants to join an industry in which a militant group might attack your workplace with drones and missiles? Khanna said, if you want to bring in younger people, you want to offer them a safe workplace. So what's the role of shipping insurers? Khanna told me that shipping companies cannot get to the IMO's targets on their own. It will take collaboration to get to the 2050 net zero goals, and even the checkpoints at the end of this decade and 10 years after that. And he said insurers have their own decarbonization targets.
As Allianz, we have also pledged net zero within our operations, but also there have been various commitments at various levels that we need to achieve and decarbonize our own portfolios as insurers as well. What that really means is that in the future, we need to watch our portfolios very closely, which means we need to watch our clients very closely and what are their credentials when it comes to sustainability. And that means the clients that are a lot more sustainable will obviously have a lot more preference in some shape or form in our portfolios going forward. And Allianz is not alone in this. I think most other insurers are doing this. This creates opportunities for our clients to innovate and get onto the sustainability ladder and become sustainable themselves, so that they are part of the insurance portfolios.
For more on the risks that are facing shipping companies and their insurers that are posed by tackling the industry's greenhouse gas footprint, I turn to Gina Panayiotou. She's the founder of sustainability think tank World ESG Forum and the Oceans Arena, a consultancy. And she's a lawyer who previously worked at a protection and indemnity insurer and several shipping companies with a particular focus on environmental, social, and governance factors known as ESG. She told me that decarbonization is a major challenge for shipping because there are so many stakeholders and so many different kinds of ships in a global industry.
So creating that level playing field where we can manage to decarbonize as a sector, that's quite a big challenge. So the concerns are, of course, there. Are we worried? Yes, and rightly so, because I kind of put the risks. The main one that I say is the level playing field and financing that globally. Because even if tomorrow, if Europe managed to find the perfect fuel, or the vessels being built by European ship owners were fully compliant and we were heading towards that route, these vessels then operate globally, so it still wouldn't work.
For Panayiotou, the risks associated with tackling shipping's carbon footprint can be broken down into 5 pillars. First, there's the uncertainty of solutions.
There's some owners that do have the resources and the willingness, and they will trial and test these new tech solutions or new fuels, but that is a risk of the unknown. We don't know how that will evolve in the long term. We, in fact, don't know how it will evolve in the short term.
And then there's the clarity, or lack thereof, and the pace of regulations. While the IMO is still creating its policies, that limits how much loss prevention support insurers can give on decarbonization strategies. At third is the need for infrastructure, and the need to have a highly skilled, well-trained talent pool that can work with new technologies.
We're talking about a new type of seafarer completely, one who has to be highly skilled, highly trained, have the competences. But also your shore-based staff, like they need to be very aware of what's going on and what they have to deal with in these new risks. So that's a big one. And the talent maybe ties into the fourth pillar a bit on the geopolitical tensions that we're seeing. That's a big risk, of course, for decarbonizing. And we get a lot of scrutiny as an industry, unfortunately. People think we're not prioritizing decarbonization, which we are. But then you've got things like the war, of course, well, the issues in the Red Sea rather than the wars globally, and the Houthi attacks. And that slightly touches upon talent, I said, because if we've got these innocent people who basically are doing nothing wrong than going to the job every day, because that's what the job is, and they're getting attacked, that clearly has a ripple effect on the people that want to work for us.
Not only that, but you also have shipping companies taking longer routes to avoid these geopolitical conflicts, which has an impact on the industry's carbon emissions. And finally, there's the risks faced by boards of directors, what Panayiotou calls governance liability. Last year, for example, Shell directors were sued over the oil and gas giant's climate plans, and the EU's Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive is amping up ESG disclosures that all companies, including shipping, are required to make. Panayiotou says the liability framework is changing. Put it all together, and she says insurers have to adapt to a changing world. And it's not just the challenge of adopting new fuels and other technologies to reduce emissions, but also the growing effects of climate change. This has to be factored into shipping contracts.
Climate change is happening. Yes, we're trying to do our best as an industry to decarbonize, but that does have an impact on what a safe vessel means and what a safe ocean means, because you're seeing sea levels rising. You're seeing ports that are being affected. I mean, look at the Panama Canal issues. So these are things that need to be factored in contracts and adapted to these new realities of what a safe vessel means, what a safe ocean means, what a safe port even means.
Read more on sustainability and shipping at tradewindsnews.com/sustainability. And get the Green Seas newsletter in your inbox by signing up at tinyurl.com/greenseas. Music for this episode is by Alex Grohl, Vivalium, Coma Studio, and Mood Mode from Pixabay.